course, clinical trials is so critically important, the accrual and recruitment. And we certainly have issues to deal with that so that there is more access to people that choose to participate, that want to participate. So I guess in the end, we need to remove barriers.
I think that geographic disparities are also very much in play, certainly as it relates to access to trials and access to major medical centers where research is being done, where there may be more choices available. Across the board, in particular to the triple negative community, I think not that I have an inherent bias against community-based medicine, because I don't. I think it can be excellent care, and I think that the trust issues there between doctor and patient can be very, very strong. But I do think that there is a greater concern about how many doctors are really aware when you're talking about something as specific as triple negative breast cancer. What is current? What's state-of-the-art treatment? When will I need to pass this patient on to a specialist who recommends that they go to, perhaps travel to Chicago or New York or Los Angeles or Miami for a consult? How am I going to get this patient into a trial, which is imperative early on in treatment when there are no trials available? Those are some key issues.
For clinical trials, if we're not following evidence-based pathways, we should have a clinical trial in place for any person, no matter what your diagnosis is, to go on. And a lot of our patients who want to participate don't, because they do live an hour and a half, 2 hours away, and they can't afford the gas money or the time off of work. And then that's the frustration on my behalf as a research nurse, is some of the hoops that we have to jump through to get things done or get a study started. In fact, we just opened up a study and the drug's already being approved, and that was in a year and a half in the process of getting that to our clinic. So I don't know how we solve some of those things, but those are certainly questions we need to ask and put on the table.
There's a huge disparity with getting African Americans in clinical trials, and we work with African American breast cancer survivors. And one of the major things is there's a major distrust issue in the African American community. And in order for us as an organization, or just as a community, we have to be educated on the importance of clinical trials. That's the first step. And I think that's going to require us as African Americans to be at the table when these research studies are designed. I just had a meeting earlier with a group that are like in third or fourth phase of this particular project, and they're just now coming to us asking our input on how to recruit X amount of African American women for the project. And I told them, well, you're already on the losing end, because you're coming to us a year later in the game, whereas if we were sitting at the table with you from the beginning, we probably could have saved you time and money. So that's the first thing. We need to find a way to infiltrate is a strong word, but to get inside and be on the ground floor at the table when these studies are being designed. Advocacy groups and minority groups that know, because there's no cookie cutter approach to recruiting minorities for research studies.
Kelly, how do we overcome some of the trust issues within, in this case, not just the African American community, but in many of the other minority communities too? Trust is huge.
Well, I think education, and most of us will agree, education, and not only that, but how the message is delivered. It needs to be delivered by people that look like the community you're trying to recruit. I have a great example of that. I worked for MD Anderson on a prostate project, and they wanted me to recruit African American men to get screened for prostate cancer. Well, that's fine, but I'm an African American female, and going to talk to African American men about their prostate, that wasn't going to happen. But again, this was a project that was already designed, and they came to our department for recruitment efforts. So I then had to go in and say, this recruitment method that you have on paper is not going to work. Well, they didn't listen, so it failed the first 6 months, and when we did it my way, it was a very successful recruitment effort. So that's just one major example of how you really have to have people that look like the audience you're trying to recruit. I implemented an ambassador program where we used African American prostate cancer survivors to go in to talk to men on the importance and how them being screened helped save their lives. And it was, overwhelming response to the screening. That's just, one example.
So in addition to the socioeconomic and cultural aspects of this, which are probably the most important contributors to disparities, there is a biological aspect as well. And so an awful lot of what you'll hear scientists and clinicians talking about is how, in my view, the only way that we'll eliminate that aspect of disparities is to be able to move from treating patients as a member of a population and a statistical average of that population to treating patients as individuals based on the biological profile, the molecular profile of their individual cancers. And so that's an awful lot of, again, what you'll hear about researchers talking about, and just in the context of clinical trials, why it's so important to be able to gain access, for researchers to gain access to samples of patient material so that we can understand the molecular profiles, relate those profiles to a response to specific therapies and outcomes, so that then the next time this comes around, we can base a decision about a therapy based on, again, not membership in a population, but molecular behavior of a particular individual cancer.
My name is Jenny Mason. I'm with the Inflammatory Breast Cancer Research Foundation. And that is such an important issue to my organization, to me personally as a survivor, that in 2005 my organization started a biobank to collect archival tissue from mastectomy and biopsy on inflammatory breast cancer patients through a long-term IRB-approved research project, because we're a subpopulation, that researchers said, oh, we can't study that. There's no patient population that's easily accessible, and we're not going to learn these important pathways that are distinct to the subgroups, the individual patients, if there isn't good annotated tissue available. We collect the medical record that goes with the tissue. That's all de-identified, so it's all done appropriately. But we're going to learn important things, and it allows every individual patient, even if they can't be in a clinical trial or do something like that, to have a piece of what happens in the research community. And this is a patient-driven project. We're not affiliated with an academic institution or a medical facility. This is patient-owned and operated.
Private medicine can be as helpful to the research as anybody. And what we need to do is figure out a way to bring private medicine into the fold of the research. How, is it monetary? I don't know. Is it to go pull on their heartstrings? But why can't every private medical breast surgeon be donating to a tumor bank for research? It should almost be, shy of socialized medicine. There should be some request to make them be more involved in the research, as well as getting that information out to communities when you're talking about geographically. Even when they're told you need to be going someplace else, economically that may not be feasible. And so how can our primary care physicians be taught by the gurus of the research world how they can be doing research and helping and being involved? And granted, you have to have nurse, and I'm a bit naive on that issue on what it would take, but why can't that start happening? Why can't we build that infrastructure to make that happen out in the private medical world as much as and I think it's, again, what you said, advocates need to come together and promote that it's only going to go forward faster with more involvement.
And this is an issue, I believe, that could really bind the breast cancer community together. And I think when it comes to initiatives like this and progressive thinking, and in this case, progressive pathology, because it's not enough to look under a microscope. I mean, that technology is like really old. We're talking about an era of personalized therapy, tailoring therapies, targeted therapies, everything based on genomics, molecular therapies. Well, then why wouldn't we want to complement that with molecular pathology? But this is an area that I believe if the advocate community came together on, we could really make a difference. Not one advocacy organization, but all of us. because this is a common issue that we share, especially in the area of solid tumors. So we should take this topic and probably put it in a category that we can all revisit through discussion and by email, figuring out how we can take this one on.